Okay, everybody, I'm going to show you how to go through Project 2A. If you go to the Inquire site, you'll notice under February 13th I have Project 2A info. Just click on that. I'm going to change this document a little bit, but it's not going to change very much. So you can go ahead and, what I'm saying here will still apply. You can read through on your own what the project is about. Basically, I want to research real data that applies to a social justice issue, and then analyze it as it relates to the news. So I'm going to come down here, and then this NLSinfo.org link is what you'll click on to access the NLSY. It's the National Longitudinal Survey on Youth. Notice that I'm already logged in here. I can log out and show you what that would look like. So this is what it would bring up, and it will say welcome guest. I would recommend registering an account. It's free, and you just have to type in your email address and name and everything like that. At any rate, when you go to log in, once you've registered, my stuff is already populating here, so I'll just click log in. And that brings me into the data set. So this data set is huge. I'm going to warn you right now, it is so vast, it is easy to get lost forever in this thing. So I have an idea already planned out for what I want to research, as you will. You will decide on an article, on a topic, and find supporting articles. And then you'll go in here, and I would recommend using one of the top three. If you want to use one of these original cohorts right here, just let's talk first. I don't know that you'll need to do that, but if you find something really interesting there, I would be open to the idea, but I want to chat with you about it first. So I would recommend either using the 79, 79 child and adult, or the 97. The difference is NLSY97 is people that are in their 30s right now, and NLSY79 is people that are in their 50s right now. So I'm going to do this because I'm interested. I'm going to choose 97 because I'm interested in racial differences in drug arrests and drug usage in people in their 30s right now. So this brings up, and we're going to walk through these 5 tabs. You start to the far left and work your way to the far right, and that's when you're done. So this pub ID variable is required because that is like the serial number for each individual person that cross-references all of their responses between the different questions they were asked. So that's required because otherwise you wouldn't be able to cross-reference any data from one question to the other. Recommended demographic variables. If you go to review selected variables, notice that there's 1 here plus 5, and so if we go to review selected variables, we have 6. The very top is that pub ID that's required. It's just an identification code, and if I roll my mouse over the pub ID under the question name, it pops up this big gray box that shows me a preview of what the results were. And as I can see here, these were just like identifier numbers. They're just identification codes. Nobody had, in the left-hand column is the number of responses, and or rather the number in that category, and then on the right hand column there is the category itself. So nobody had the number 0. Between numbers 1 to 999 there were 998 people that fit into that category of identification code. And these were just anonymous codes that were given to each respondent so that we could tell who said what on multiple questions. Okay, so just know, and if you notice at the bottom, there were 8,984 respondents to the NLSY97 survey. I'm gonna take off, just because I don't need them for this question. I'm going to take off the birth date and birth month, or month and year, excuse me. And I'm also going to take off the cross-sectional sample because I just don't need that. So notice now that I have 3 things chosen. I have gender, race, and ethnicity, and I can even take off gender actually. That's not going to matter for my question. So notice now I just have pub ID and I have race and ethnicity, and it shows me that my selected variables are 2 of them because I have 2 checked. I can click refresh list and it just drops the others out that I have unchecked and leaves me with the 2 that I want. Now to add more data, I go to variable search right here, and this is where you start to see how big and vast this thing is. These numbers represent all of the different possible questions and categories that are under these heading categories. So if I wanted to look at education, I can go to education. Well, there's 22,394 things I can look at under education. So you quickly start to see just how massive this data set is. So, you know, I can go to education, transcript data. Let's go into education real quick. I'll go to schooling history, you know, primary school, yearly arrays, number of months, number of suspensions. If I wanted to look at school suspensions, maybe by race, I could do that. So when I click on stuff, notice here under suspensions it says 23. Well, that means there's 23 things that I can look at. So this only brings up one 1985 schooling suspension, but there are 23 variables under that. So if I click this little plus, it drops down and I see that I have, oh, this is just the same question that's been done every year. 1985, 1986, 1987, all the way up, blah, 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 and here I get to 2007. And I can roll over and notice that it pops up a gray box. Now, this is a good example of something that would not be a reliable question at this point, because notice that nobody has really been responding to this question. Sometimes questions get dropped out over the years. Yeah, I mean, like, there's a good response in 96, 97, 98 still good, 99 still good, 2000. Notice that there's fewer and fewer people responding to this because the same people have been responding to it since 85. So maybe, you know, those same people are not in school anymore in 2001, hopefully not. So they all of a sudden wouldn't be responding to this question because they're out of school and it doesn't apply to them. And you can always look at the top there where it says number of days suspended from a primary and secondary school. That gives you the question that was actually asked. So that's just an example. I'm going to collapse all of this because I'm interested in drug usage and arrests in white versus black race. So I'm going to go to crime, substance use, illegal drugs, and for this example I'm just going to do marijuana. So I'm going to ask the question of who has ever used marijuana even once, and then among those people I'm going to look at black versus white, and I'm going to look at the arrest records as well. So we'll go to marijuana, ever or any use, age at first use, or amount. I'm just going to go to ever because I'm interested in people that have used marijuana ever. So here this brings up, notice there are 22 options, and so this brings up my 22 options. Now they all look similar, but notice that the years over here are different. So for the purposes of this example, I'm going to use this 2011 data right here, this question code, and if I click on it, notice it pops up that I had 1,178 people say yes in 2011, but notice the same question name is going through the different years, so it was the same question asked to people in different years. So for the purposes of this example, I'm just going to look at 2011. I have a reason for that, so I'm just clicking the check mark, and notice now that that has thrown it into my review selected variables list up here, and this is all I'm going to look at for this example. Okay. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to look at one more thing. So there is, there's that. And now I'm going to go over to, or excuse me, back in crime and substance use. So I'm going to go to crime. I'm going to go to arrests. And we'll do any arrest. Okay, so this brings up a lot, 78. I am interested in Those are pretty small. Notice this: arrested since date of last interview for possession of use or use of illegal drugs. But I pull it up and only 14 people responded to it because look at the where it says valid skip. So 7,740 people skipped the question. They did not respond to it. So I wouldn't want to use this question because it doesn't really have enough data for me to consider. And so I can look at other things, like I can do I can look at all kinds of, has R been arrested since date of last interview. SDLI is since date of last interview. So I could look here. Okay, so 212 people were. Nobody skipped that question. Look at this. Again in 2011. So nobody skipped that question. 7,423 or 7,336 people responded. 212 had been arrested. So we can look at all kinds of things. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to stop where I am now. So if I go to review selected variables at the top here, I still have my pub ID and my race and ethnicity selected, and now I have my has R used marijuana since DLI in 2011. So then I'm going to go to Codebook. This just shows you all of your data, and this is actually a really nice way to I can click through here, selected variables. I can click through and see how things are distributed. It'll just create little graphs for me right here. So this is my racial makeup: black, Hispanic, mixed race, and non-black, non-Hispanic. That fourth category would be white. And so if you notice here, I'm just going to show you how this works. So across a line like this, the 4665 means that's how many people fall into that category. The number 4 here is the numerical equivalent that was used, like a key almost, like a translation key. So that instead of having to type the words non-black, non-Hispanic all the time, they just used the number 4 to represent non-black, non-Hispanic. And similarly, they used the number 1 to represent black, and 2 to represent Hispanic, and so on and so forth. So that's what will actually be included in the data set when you download it. So now that we've looked at all this, I can go to Save and Download. I'm just going to, this is Save Tag Set. This is like if I wanted to go back to my work later and have those variables already selected. If I needed to re-access it, it's just like makes it easier to do later. But I'm just going to go over here to Advanced Download. Basic Download gives you everything, but you don't need most of this stuff. So go to Advanced Download, and you can select all kinds of things. SAS, SPSS, Stata, R, those are all different statistical analysis software packages that I'm not expecting you to use because you have to be trained on them, and if you have experience with them and want to use them, by all means that's great, but it's not a requirement for the class. So you don't need SAS, SPSS, Stata, and R unless you're going to use those things. You do need the codebook of selected variables, and you need to use in Excel. Notice for Excel you need a comma delimited data file and column headers. I would recommend using the question name because it'll just be easier to find. So we're going to check this, and we're going to check, or excuse me, we're just going to, and there's other things you can do in here too, but for the purposes of this demonstration I'm going to get past all that. Choose a file name. We'll do drug arrests. Notice your file name can only contain alpha, numeric, hyphen, and underscore, so nothing else. And I just hit download. It'll say submitting download request, and then it pops this up. Now I have a bunch of stuff. This is stuff I can just get rid of this, so I was just doing other examples here. And notice the time here. I'm just going to get rid of these other ones. because I don't want them anymore. And it leaves me with this one. I just did this. So this is the timestamp and date for right now. And this is the name that I gave it. And it was from NLSY97. So I'm just going to click download that. And then it downloads to my computer. It downloads as a zip file. So when I open it, I have to extract it. And so when I open the folder, once it's extracted, I get these four things. Now, this is a codebook file, which we're not going to worry about right now. I'm interested in this CSV. A CSV file is readable by Excel. And notice it's identified it as an Excel file. So the CSV file will open it up in Excel. And notice what I have here, I can just play around with the, my stuff. So I have the pub ID here. These are going to be the people that responded to this. And notice I just keep going and scrolling, and it's massive, right? It's huge. Okay. So the way to read this is these are individual people in pub ID. So this is person with the code number 1. This is person with the code number 2. Person with the code number 11, so on and so forth. Now the way we need to start eliminating these pieces of data is by drilling it down how we want to analyze it. The key, the race and ethnicity key right here, notice that it has numbers, but remember, I'm just going to put this in side-by-side mode so we can look at this together. Remember, if I look at my codebook again here, remember what those numbers actually mean. So if I go to the, where's the race and ethnicity? Here's race and ethnicity. So looking at my race and ethnicity codebook, the 1 represents black. That means that in this column of my Excel file, anywhere I see a 1, that represents a black person. When I see a number 4, that represents a white person. So there's a white person, and number 2 is Hispanic. See, so if I'm just going down the line here, this is person with code number 1, code number 2, code number 3, code number 4. These are anonymized people here. But this person number 1 happens to be white. This person number 2 is Hispanic, 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 going down. I've got white. Oh, here's black, black, black. Going down. 2 would be Hispanic, 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 white, 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 black, 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 black. So the question that I'm interested in is, out of people that have used marijuana, how many are white and how? We need to just whittle this down so that this question, remember my YSAQ 370C right here, that question was the people who said yes were a response of 1, so I don't care about anybody else in this column. And notice the number -5 means like they were not able to be interviewed. All I care about is the people in this column that responded to 1. So I'm going to take this column, I'm going to sort largest to smallest, and I'm going to, when it says do I want to expand the selection, I want to say yes, because then that's going to get all the columns to the side of it to also expand. So I just go to sort. Okay, so I've got a bunch of 1s now, all 1s, good, 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 1s, 1s, 1s. Okay, so I don't care about any of these 0 people or below. So I'm just going to highlight that row, and notice I can highlight whole chunks now. So notice I'm cutting off right here where my person is, my last 1 is. So I'm just going to go down here to the bottom, and I'm just going to go and go and go, and it's going to take me forever. You have to kind of be careful not to accidentally click on something else. Just getting down there, go, 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 go. Okay, near the end. So we're getting down here. And here, I went a little bit too far. Okay, so now I'm just going to do a shift click, and it highlights all of those people. And so now I can just delete all of that. And so now what it has done for me, I've noticed I've deleted all that extra stuff, and I only have people that have answered a 1 to that question about using marijuana in the last month. Now I'm interested in seeing what number of those people are black and what people are white. So I'm just going to make a little chart here. And so I can use the count if function for this. So out of black, I'm just going to go right here and I'll do equals count if, open parentheses, and what this will do is count if something is true. So I'm going to count if, I'm going to count the entire column B, so I can just click B, or I can just type B colon B, and it takes the entire column B, and then I do a comma, space. The criteria is I want it to be black people, and in my codebook right here, I see that black is code number 1. So back over here, I want to do B if it's code 1, and then I close parenthesis and hit enter. And so that's how many black people have used marijuana in the past since the last interview. I want to do the same thing for white. I'll do count if column B, and my code for white was code 4. So I'll just type a 4 here, and that's how many white people have used marijuana since the last interview. So notice that there are twice as many white people as there are black that have used marijuana. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to look at this other article that I have found about drug arrests. So this is actual drug use. This is drug use. This is marijuana use. Okay, marijuana use. And here's marijuana arrests. And remember, this was 2011 that we did this data. So here's marijuana arrests, and in 2011, look at this. Right here, there were 543 black arrests for marijuana possession and 188 white arrests for marijuana possession. And we're going to equate possession with use. We're not talking about, intent to distribute or anything else. We're just talking about use and possession. So we're going to assume that if people were possessed it, they were going to be using it. So notice that the white arrests are 188 and the black arrests are 543. And this is the same year. This is 2011. This is 2011. So the punchline here, and this is where the social justice issue really comes in, is that in the same year there were twice as many white people using marijuana, but almost three times as many arrests of black people as there were white people. So while it was a 2-to-1 ratio white to black, well, it was a 2-to-1 ratio white to black, it's a 3-to-1 ratio black to white for arrests. Or in other words, it's white people are twice as likely to use marijuana, and in the same year, black people were 3 times more likely to get arrested for it. So I hope this explains kind of what the project is about. And then, and some of this is actually the analysis part of it here would be in project 2B. But I just wanted to go through how to use the NLSY navigator and get you familiar with what we're going to be doing for this project. Thanks for watching.